Hey YouTube, what's going on? It is Mr. Sick Games here. Today I'm going to go ahead and be showing you how I set up my Death Knight. I'm going to be showing you why my spells are set up the way they're set up. And I'm also going to be showing you a few other things about my Death Knight. So let's go ahead and start off with the looks of my Death Knight first. So we have here, people have been asking me about this headpiece here. So I've actually got that. And it is the Crown of Eternal Winter. I bought it on the World of Warcraft website for around $15 US. I like it a lot. It fades in and out for the skull. It really fits my Death Knight because my Death Knight is a Frost Death Knight. So that brings me on to the next thing. My Death Knight is Frost. I find that Frost, in my opinion, is the best for DPS. Some people like Unholy. I prefer Frost. So let's go ahead and go into it. So for the level 56, I have the Plague Leech. Now the reason I put the Plague Leech, as we read it here, it consumes your Blood Plague and Frost Fever on the target to activate 2 random fully depleted runes as death runes. Next, we have the Anti-Magic Zone. Now the Anti-Magic Zone, I find it useful sometimes in PvE, but most of the times it's really useful in PvP when you're going against other players. Now this can also be really well used in raids, because what it does is places an anti-magic zone for 3 seconds that reduces spell damage taken by party or raid members by 20%. So that's actually really good right here. Next, we have the Death's Advance. You passively move 10% faster, and movement impairing effects may not reduce you below 70% of normal movement speed. Now when activated, you get 30% movement speed and may not be slowed below 100%. Now the reason I chose that one, obviously I move a little bit faster. Now on top of that, these two right here suck in my opinion. They offer nothing. Nothing at all. Let's read it. Victims of your Frost Fever are chilled, reducing movement speed by 50% for 10 seconds. I don't really care about that because I do have Chains of Ice. So the next one for level 60 I put is Blood Trap. Every 15 runic power you spend will generate a blood charge. Max 12 charges. Blood Tap consumes 5 blood charges to activate randomly fully depleted rune as a death rune. The reason I like the Blood Tap is because I do like to use my Blood Foil, my Death and Decay, and also my Death Strike. So that's really good for that. Next I put is the Death Pack. It heals the Death Knight for 50% of max health and absorbs incoming healing equal to 25% of max health for 15 seconds. So the reason I use that is because, as you see here, it heals you for 50% of your max health. So if you're running low on health, you really need to use that. I actually don't have that in my bar, which I'm going to go ahead and add because I rearranged it before and I forgot to add that on there. Now, the last one that I have is the Remorseless Winter. It surrounds the Death Knight with swirling tempests of frigid air for 8 seconds, chilling enemies within 8 yards every 1 second. I haven't really got a chance to use this, honestly, so I'm not going to speak much about it, but the reason I did choose that is because I favorited it over the next two. I still, of course, haven't done the level 100, but to tell you the truth, for the level 100, one thing for sure I'm not going to go with is with the Necrotic Plague. I'm not going to go with that for sure. I'll speak about the reasons once I actually choose it. Now let's go ahead and speak about the spells. Now with my spells, I did have that one that I just showed you guys that I actually have to add on here, which is Death Pack. So my Death Pack, I'm going to go ahead and add it right there. Okay, so here, starting with number 1, Soul Reaper. Now, having it number 1 doesn't actually mean that I use it all the time. What it actually means is that I have it there because it's the most important in my opinion when I remember to use it. So anyways, you strike the enemy for 1.485 physical damage and inflicts the target with Soul Reaper. After 5 seconds, if the target is below 35% health, this effect will deal 6.405 additional Shadow Frost damage. If the enemy dies before this effect triggers, the Death Knight gains 50% haste for 5 seconds. So that's just really, you gotta time how to use that one. So I don't use it much, but when I do remember to use it, I use it. Now the Outbreak. Now Outbreak, I use it when I'm fighting a boss or a death boss. Let me move around a little bit. Let's pick a different scenery while I go ahead and talk for this one. Okay, different scenery. There we go. So okay, Outbreak. Outbreak is really important when you're fighting a boss, whether it be in a raid or whether it be in a dungeon. So Outbreak, what it does is instantly applies Blood Plague, Frost Fever to the target enemy. Now, as a Death Knight, especially Frost Death Knight, you always want to constantly have your Frost Fever up and your Blood Plague up. plague. Blood plague up, and your frost fever. The reason for that is because your blood plague, as you see it on the bottom right, is a disease that deals shadow damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. So the way I like to do it, if I'm not looking at the boss and seeing when it's about to run out, I count in my head. Every 20 seconds, I make sure I apply it again. Frost fever, a disease that deals frost damage every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. So outbreak, it's a minute cooldown, so obviously you're not going to be able to use outbreak every single 30 seconds. So what I do is outbreak, first thing. Now, Howling Blast. Now, Howling Blast would trigger Frost Fever. So, if the Frost Fever is running out, hit him with the Howling Blast. Takes care of that for another 30 seconds. Plus, it blasts a target with a frigid wind, dealing 1.727 frost damage to that opponent and 864 frost damage to all other enemies within 10 yards, which is what I like, using that also for a little bit of AoE as well. Now, Plague Strike actually hits them with Blood Plague. So if you're running out of the Blood Plague, BP, let's call it BP so I don't keep following going. So if you're running out of the BP, just hit them with the Plague Strike and you take care of that for another 30 seconds. Plus, it deals 604 physical damage. So that's always good. Next is Frost Strike. Now with Frost Strike, I use that when I have everything up. It hits them with 1,790 frost damage, so that's always good. It's not going to put the Frost Fever on them, but it is good for physical damage. Now, here, the Obliterate is a brutal attack that deals 2,416 physical damage and has a 45% chance to cause your next Howling Blast or Icy Touch to consume no runes. So when you use the Obliterate, not only do you do a lot of damage, but you also have a chance of the Howling Blast not to cost any runes at all. So that's also a good thing. Now, when I'm running low on health, I love to use Death Strike, which is number 7 on my list. Death Strike, what it basically is, let me break it down. You hit them, you consume a little bit of health. Description: it focuses dark power into a strike that deals 1,652 physical damage and heals you for 5,834. So I love Death Strike, especially when I'm about to die. I don't die when I quest alone because it is because of Death Strike. Now we have Death and Decay. The reason I have 2 Death and Decays here, I use this one because it's right next to this. So if I'm doing a solo quest that I need to solo it on my own, I'm about to die, I use Death and Decay to make sure that I'm dealing a lot of damage, and on top of that, I'm also hitting them with Death Strike. Now, Mind Freeze. Mind Freeze is what I like to use as an interruption. That's basically it. You smash the target's mind with cold, interrupting spell casting and preventing any spell in that school from being casted for 4 seconds. So that's an interruption spell. Icebound Fortitude. The Death Knight freezes his blood to become immune to stun effects and reduce all damage taken by 20% for 2 seconds. I'll do that if I'm about to die or if I'm doing some PvP, and it's really, really helpful. Death Grip brings the enemy to you. That's what it is. If you guys seen Mortal Kombat, get over here. Scorpion. Basically you bring the enemy towards you. Horn of Winter. You blow the Horn of the Winter, increasing attack power of all the party and raid members within 100 yards by 10% for 1 hour. So that's very, very important when you're running a dungeon or doing a raid as well. Okay, so we're going to Blood Boil. Blood Boil I love to do for AoE. Excuse my phone. So Blood Boil is great for AoE. It deals 1,051 shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards and spreads your existing diseases from your target to all other enemies. So if, let's say there's a mob of 5. You're going to attack one, put all the plagues on that one enemy, and then you're going to hit Blood Boil. Why? Because once you put all your diseases on that one target and hit Blood Boil, all those diseases are going to spread among the whole entire mob. So not only you're doing a lot of damage, but you're also doing diseases. Death and Decay, I explained that already. Path of Frost, I love using this so I can walk over water with my mount. Pillar of Frost is nothing really special, I just have it there. Chains of Ice I like to use when I'm trying to get away from a mob and they keep trying to catch up to me. I just freeze them and then slows them down a little bit. Rocket Jump is this right here. Bam! I don't know why I like using it, it's fun. I have Mass Resurrection. It basically sends a Mass Resurrection to everyone that has died. I use that for my dungeons and for future raids as well. Then I have Race and Alley. This is basically when one of your allies dies during battle, you'll be able to race them. Deathgate gets me to the Death Knight's Ebon hold, so that's where the Death Knights actually go and stuff. Empower Rune Weapon is just to empower your weapons. Then we have Rune Forging as well, and then Death Pack, which I spoke about earlier. So guys, that's how I have my Death Knight built. If you guys have any tips on if I should change anything, I'll be more than happy to hear your tips. Just comment down below. This is what I've been using for the last like 3 years. It works for me. I get great DPS when I have great gear. But anyways guys, make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you comment down below, and make sure you subscribe and check out all my videos for daily gaming videos every day. Alright, so I'll see you guys next time. Until then, bye. My voice cracked.